Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And in social media news, we've got to talk about TikTok, Meta, aka Facebook and Instagram, and X, aka Twitter, as well as Snapchat and some others, because they don't care about your kids. Now, there's a really interesting write-up here by Hannah Schaumbaum of the Associated Press, and I think what we're seeing basically is the next frontier of legal challenges on just how much rights we have on social media and how we can control it within our families. And I think this is an important one because a trade group that represents TikTok, et cetera, and those other major tech companies just sued Utah, the state of Utah, this past Monday over its first-in-the-nation laws requiring children and teens to obtain parental consent to use social media apps. Now, these two laws were signed basically into law back in March by Spencer Cox. He is the Republican governor of Utah, and these will prohibit minors from using social media between the hours of 10:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. unless authorized by a parent. And it also requires age verification to open and maintain a social media account in the state. So if you want to go ahead and open up a Facebook account because you're one of the 3 people with internet that doesn't have one, you have to basically show ID. Obviously, that data privacy side of that is another issue that we're going to talk about shortly here. But overarchingly, this is returning, or the goal here is to return control of social media use back to parents so parents have a better involvement in what their kids are doing. Now, these restrictions are designed to protect children from targeted advertisements as well as addictive features that could negatively impact their mental health. And that obviously is a huge thing. Look at the longitudinal studies we have. You can go read Jonathan Haidt's The Coddling of the American Mind. You can read Frances Haugen's basically work as she was a whistleblower for Facebook, and how Facebook knew via internal psychologists that they were doing harm to teens and kids and decided not to do anything. You can go look at TikTok, who aligned with the Chinese government because the Chinese version of TikTok does exactly this. It limits the kids, it restricts content to their children, and all of that while promoting science, math, all that fun stuff, where we get stupid dance videos 24 hours a day. Now, both of these laws in Utah are slated to take effect on March 1st of 2024. Now, the trade group we're talking about here is called NetChoice, and they're arguing in their federal lawsuit that although Utah's regulations are well-intentioned, they are unconstitutional because they restrict access to public content, compromise data security, and undermine parental rights. And let's talk about that for a second, because public content, social media platforms are not Title II. They're not regulated in the same way as, say, the phone company is. And so by virtue of that, this is not necessarily public content. Facebook, as big as it is, or TikTok, as big as it is a closed ecosystem. That is not a public platform in the traditional sense of the word. Compromised data security? Why? Because we now have to submit an ID to actually prove who we are? Are the large tech companies saying that they're not going to handle our data privacy when we hand them over a driver's license or another form of ID properly? Is that what they're saying? Is that, yeah, we're going to compromise your security if you have to give us your license? Is that part of their lawsuit? Also, undermine parental rights? You've basically been doing that since the very beginning by letting anybody without validation on. We have not trusted you in years because we see the studies, as I just mentioned on this. If anything, these laws are giving more rights back to parents to have more control over what their kids do online, and the social media companies are basically forced to comply. Quote, "We are fighting to ensure that all Utahns can embrace digital tools without the forceful clutch of government control." That is according to NetChoice Litigation Center Director Chris Marchese. Now, the trade association includes many of the leading ones, as I mentioned: TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, X, et cetera. Now, Governor Cox basically predicted that there would be lawsuits challenging both bills, as of course the social media platforms have an absolute army of lobbyists, but he said he wasn't worried because there's a growing body of research that demonstrates how social media use can negatively impact the mental health of children. And yes, I just mentioned a whole bunch of those. You can go read Jean Twenge's iGen. That's the other one I didn't mention. I've read them all, and I really urge everybody to do that as well. Now, in another lawsuit filed by NetChoice, a federal judge temporarily blocked Arkansas from enforcing its new law requiring parental consent for minors to create social media accounts. Similar laws in Texas and Louisiana are on the books but have not yet taken effect, so obviously we're expecting a full court press from the multi-billion-dollar social media wing of the lobbyist lobbyist firms. Now, Utah state laws impose steep fines for social media companies that do not comply with the age verification rule, which NetChoice says may lead companies to collect an excess of personal information from users that could end up threatening their online safety. Again, you are literally telling us you're not secure. So why on earth should we use your platforms and give away information? We all know a person on Facebook that uses it as a personal therapy group, and you're literally telling us in your lawsuit you're not secure. Like, do you see how ridiculous this is? Now, the state regulations prohibit companies from using any design or feature that causes a child to become addicted to their app. In other words, let's strip the like button out, let's strip the algorithms out, that doom scroll, let's strip the anger, all those kinds of things. That is basically neutering Facebook, who has made their money literally on getting us angry and driving a wedge into society, not to mention causing a genocide in Myanmar, war crimes in the Middle East, and a whole bunch more. So this is obviously a huge thing. They don't want any of this at all. The lawsuit also challenges the state-imposed social media curfew, arguing that it could negatively impact children by cutting them off from news, which, quite frankly, is being deprioritized on Facebook and is incredibly hyperbolic and not well researched on TikTok and the others, or study tools, again, don't need Facebook for that, and communication with their peers, again, don't need any social media platforms for that either. That's irrelevant to this, but this is what they're claiming. Any social media platform with at least 5 million users, for the record, is subject to the new regulation. So the smaller social media platforms out there as well, there you go. Now, I don't know if Discord would be considered social media because it's kind of independent servers. Each server has its own thing, own group of people. I don't know, but we're going to see. And so, and I think, for the record, if you really want to know why TikTok, Meta, X, etc. hate these possible laws and are spending a combined millions and millions and millions of dollars with lobbyists fighting this at the state level, look no further than this quote from the AP article that I have been paraphrasing this entire time. And I quote directly, "Under the laws, parents will have access to their children's accounts and can more easily sue social media companies that they claim have caused their children harm. The laws shift the burden of proof from the families onto the social media companies, requiring them to demonstrate that their products were not harmful," end quote. And with the rash of deep fakes and airbrushing and photoshopping on Instagram that has given a legion of teen girls depression and body images, to the cyberbullying across, Facebook, to the ridiculous challenges on TikTok that literally poisoned people. Yes, they are going to be held accountable under this rule. And I think that is absolutely great. And if anything, if they're saying that, hey, we don't want to do this, that, yeah, we want to continue harming our kids, I mean, I'm not being hyperbolic about it. They're literally saying on the data security side, well, if you have to give us more information, it may not be that secure. How much information did Facebook want to sign up originally? So understand just the foolhardiness of this. Understand longitudinally the damage that social media has done to kids. I'm old enough to realize and recognize that I didn't grow up, in my youth and teenage years with social media. It came later in like my late 20s, early 30s, that kind of thing. And so I was a well-developed child, and longitudinal studies show that those kids that adopt social media at age 19 or older are much better off mentally and psychologically. They don't have these problems and these issues that apparently the social media platforms want to keep rolling with. I mean, it's absolutely insane to me. So that is your news of the day. I hope the social media companies lose. Quite frankly, I am all for this. And if you've got kids and you don't know what they're doing on social media, or you're not vetting their apps, odds are they're seeing things that are making them uncomfortable or worse. And so make sure you've got good parental control over those kinds of things. Educate your kids, educate your kids, educate your kids. But it's about time that these social media companies started taking responsibility for the absolute damage they have done to a generation and a half. And I think it's unconscionable that they would fight against that. But hey, money is money. And here we are. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And hopefully you're a well-adjusted adult as you watch me on YouTube as well. And please subscribe there. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, just please, attempt to stay private and mentally well. Take care.